I guess the general question is, what do you think is the most important food issue for young people today?
For young people today, you're going to have to skip in. So what's really, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it's an impression. But my impression is that young people don't know how to cook and don't feel comfortable in the kitchen. And see, what happened when I grew up is when I was a little girl, I stood on a chair to help my mother cook. I remember my earliest memories of being in a kitchen is on a chair. And so, people always say to me, wow, I've just told you that 12 people are coming together and you whipped up a meal in an hour. How is it you do that? And it's like, okay, how do I do it? I feel comfortable in the kitchen. So how many young people feel comfortable in the kitchen? Now, I don't know, but I was talking to a young college freshman, and she was raised on a farm, and she's like the oldest of 6 girls, and she feels very comfortable in the kitchen. And when I asked her that question, she said to me, well, young people need to learn how to cook and how to feel comfortable in the kitchen, and if you possibly can, to grow something, even if it's in a pot, because not only have young people forgotten how to feel comfortable in the kitchen, they're disconnected with their food. And so you'd think the answer to that would be, you must get connected with your food. But then if you start drilling that down, where do you get connected with your food? You get in your mouth, in your taste, in your passion, in your senses. Food is not just something that you're scarfing down because you need the nutrients. It's a sensual and sometimes even passionate experience. Look at all the movies, like Chocolate for Water, that have sex and passion and chocolate and all that stuff. But, first, though, if you know how to cook, then that opens up your whole, all of a sudden you think that that there's something different than what you cooked yourself than what you bought in a quick trip. All of a sudden you start having a discerning palate, and then all of a sudden you start getting connected with your food, and especially if you garden. So then once you get connected with your food, you then start learning about the politics of food, and you get to learn that 70% of the world's resources are used to grow food. And so every time you eat something, you're making a decision about the resources. But you don't want to necessarily just dump out on every young person, so you want them to have some fun first. And so if they get to, eat and cook and understand, then they start drilling down, they can drill that on their own, in my opinion. So what I like to say is when people say, what can we tell people about being healthy or getting connected with food, I always say, learn how to cook. And, have a garden. And there couldn't be a better way to do it.
What about for people that are just starting to grow food for the first time? What do you think is the most important thing for them to keep in mind as they're starting to grow food? Or how do you think that growing food impacts the greater world around you?
It was really interesting. I went to Moscow quite a long time ago. It was in 1993 or something like that. It was right after the collapse of communism. And, there was no food. But they're a nation of gardeners. And if they weren't, a lot of them would have been very, very hungry and starving. And if we look at, there's 7 billion people in the world today, going up to 9 billion, 7 billion. 2 billion, that's 2/7 of the world, are either incredibly hungry or missing meals, only eating 1 meal a day, or maybe even starving to death. You say 1 billion are right on the edge of dying from it. And if you think about that, you think, who will feed the world? People can feed themselves. People who garden, gardening, growing your own food, it's got to be one of the most excitingly creative things anybody can do. I don't know anyone who's grown a carrot or anything else for the first time who hasn't gone away going, wow, I did that. You see it with kids, you see it with everything, and it changes their relationship with food. So, but, how many people have the luxury of having a garden, okay? They don't. But, they say, hey, grow some parsley in your apartment in the window. If you can even do that and put life around you. That great book by, I think his name is Richard Louv, No Child Left in the Woods, where he introduces the idea of NDD, Nature Deficit Disorder, where whole generations have never touched the earth. They get out of their concrete building and they go onto concrete and they maybe see a few trees. Well, if they go to Central Park, they're probably very lucky because apparently there's 1,500 trees in Central Park, or 1,500 varieties. But anyway, people are not in touch with nature anymore. So it's a real problem. And yet food should bring them right to that.
Would you say your name for us and that you're from Organic
Oh,
Valley?
sure. Teresa Marquez, Chief Marketing Executive for Organic Valley Family Farms.
Did you get that?
How's that?
Thank you so much.